Good morning, everybody. Lots of bloodshot eyes this morning. What happened last night that I missed out on? Nothing. What happens in Montreal stays in Montreal. And we get to do it all again in Rome. Absolutely. So I wanted to just take a couple of minutes to thank and congratulate a bunch of different people, if I may. Firstly, do we have any finalists in the room? Any finalists in the room? Please stand up, the finalists, because I just want to reemphasize that, yes, we had some winners last night, but being a finalist is incredible, a very high bar. Congratulations. Do we have any sponsors in the room? You know, they're all outside packing up their booths. Oh, we have one sponsor. As the representative sponsor, thank you, thank you, thank you. I think you'll agree this has been an incredible event, and we literally cannot do that without the support of a lot of sponsors. All of this costs money, as you know. Part of that is we try and keep the registration fees down as low as we can, and we can only do that because of the incredible support. And of course, we've worked very closely in partnership, as you saw the first morning, with BIM Quebec, the Canadian chapter. Erik, thank you for you and Bill and all the work that was done to work as a team on pulling off this event. I think it's been great. It's the first time we've tried to do a real kind of hybrid summit. It's been hard, and I want to apologize. It hasn't always worked. There's been some of the rooms that had technical glitches, whatever. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for understanding. You know, practice makes perfect. I think we've learned a lot about the platform. We've learned a lot about the challenges. To the extent that we're still going to do hybrid next time, although that's a question I think that we have to study, we certainly hope to improve the experience. So thanks for tolerating the glitches along the way. But you're all tech guys. You know that happens, right? But the forgiveness, thank you very much. There's also another group of people in the room I'd like to stand up, which is all the buildingSMART International team, please. They've done a lot of work to prepare for this. Please thank them. Okay. And this guy has walked about 75 miles a day, running between rooms, trying to keep it all going. Dan, thank you so much. Okay, so I have an announcement to share with you, which I think, Dan, is on the next slide, if I'm correct. So we had some visitors from south of the border. That's what the Canadians say, right? South of the border, which were the people from the American highways. We had Mike Kennelly, Mike Blusleman. We had some of their consultant advisors, Will Sharp and from HDR and Jag from WSP. They left the conference just a little early to go to the AASHTO board meeting, where yesterday they passed the vote to be principal members of buildingSMART International. So thank you. We've been trying to get that to happen for 3 years, and you all made it happen for us. So thank you very much. It's very good. So if I could have the next slide, please, Dan. What this morning's all about is not about me. It's about you all and just all of the rooms. Anyone who has their photo on the screen, please stand up. Anyone who has their photo on the screen, stand up. You guys lead our rooms. You put in an amazing effort, fantastic passion. I know some of it's on the boss's time, but a lot of it's on your own time. Thank you for your guidance and leadership for all of the rooms. Thank you so much. This is what the buildingSMART community is all about. This is what all the conversations and the dialogue and the debates and the sometimes agreeing to disagree, but that's okay as we continue to work forward. And I think we saw with the award submissions last night the value of this work. When we saw some of the incredible projects and some of the amazing research and some of the technical solutions that are being not just developed, but shared. And the collaboration here is just amazing. And of course, you're all working on a lot of projects, which I think, Dan, is the next slide, please. Anyone on a project team, please stand up. Anyone on a buildingSMART project team, please stand up. These are the real workers. Thank you, guys, very, very much. So I've been thrilled to be here. It's been great to be together. Obviously, there's a lot of work to do between now and Rome, where we continue to make progress. Thank you all for being at this. Some of you, I remember meeting 25 years ago when we started doing this, but it's so much easier now with the scale, the contributions from across the globe, and we continue to, as you know, add new chapters. Portugal, Morocco, Romania. Oh, stand up. Absolutely. And one of the things we'll keep doing is, getting a new CEO on board. And when the new CEO is on board, we'll continue to look after the existing chapters, try and improve all of the processes, make it smooth, make it seamless, add some new chapters, and onward we go. And it'll be great to tell you all how much progress we've made on that when I see you again in Rome. Thank you.
Ian, thank you very much. I don't know how many of you know, but Ian was the person that went to Patrick McClamey back in the early 90s and said, we need to form something that's going to do something about the interoperability and productivity in the building industry. And here we are 30 years later. Ian's come back. He's leading us through this phase, and he's doing a fantastic job. So I want everybody to give a round of applause, please, to Ian and the wonderful work he's doing. And must be fascinating for you, Ian, to actually see this now from what your concept was all those years ago. Yeah. Well, this is better. I can see you all today. On Tuesday, it was just some lights and, but this is great. It's much more intimate. We're going to be talking about the Solutions and Standards program. I'll have the clicker actually down. Is there any chance you can turn that around so I can just look to my right and see what everybody else is seeing? Super, that's enough. Thank you very much. Yeah. So Solutions and Standards program, I always describe as the factory of buildingSMART. It's one of our 3 core programs. And it receives the requirements from the user program, and the outputs go to the compliance program. And then from there, software which is, had been produced will then go back to the users because they buy it and they put it into their operations and their capital projects. It's the mechanism for doing domain specific requirements. And when by domain specific, what I mean there is the rooms, and if there is a new domain that the community wants, then we'll create it. But the community has to want it. It's not something that's imposed upon you. It also has an optimized process, and that optimized process is to allow thousands of people around the world to collaborate and produce output in an effective and rigorous, quality assured manner. It's also agile, so it can respond to new requirements and new technologies. And we're seeing a lot of new technologies creeping into the buildingSMART domains. And finally, it's the mechanism by which we endorse and get international consensus and therefore give great credibility to the solutions and the standards that are being provided. And that's really, really important. And as far as the international community goes, I mean, just look how wide it goes. I said about thousands of people working together. This is the scale of the collaboration that we're talking about. And all these people in all these companies, in all these countries, they share one common purpose. We all share one common purpose, which is to create clear digital workflows. It's to maximize the value through the whole life cycle of assets. And actually, it's to improve the world in which we live and all aspects of our industry. to make it better. And I'm talking about productivity, I'm talking about asset management, I'm talking about sustainability, and I'm talking about the quality of the the facilities that we will have in 20, 30, 40, 50 years time in a planet that's growing, or the population that's growing. I'm pinching this quote again. I love it. Adrian used it earlier in the week. He said he stole it from Dan, but it's great. Collaborate on the rules, compete in the game. Why do we have rooms that have got competing organizations working together in them? It's not because we want to unify everything. It's not because we want to erode anybody's competitive advantage. It's because we want to make the situation better so that people can be more competitive and they can be more innovative and they can deliver a better built environment for the future. And just recapping on this, buildingSMART International, back in 1994, Mr. Howell, Patrick McClaney, quite a few others, probably about a dozen others, they started it. Volunteer organization, lots of things were created. IFC was created, Thomas Liebisch is in the room. ISO agreement was put in place, MVDs and other standards like BCF were created, and it was a really good volunteer community of chapters. And then in 2014, we started the establishment of buildingSMART International, setting the governance and the structures and the BSI process to allow the community to be able to collaborate together. And then we moved on to integration, which was basically creating improved standards from what had gone on before, IFC 4.3, and putting in place new services such as use case management service, buildingSMART data dictionary, IDS is coming, validation service. And then now we're in this deployment phase where, and I think that's the theme of this summit actually more than any other, is that there have been so many client organizations with us this week who have come with the confidence to tell us what they want. And we've not really had that before. The fact that ASHTO have now joined as well, and we have many other client organizations, in our community. They've come along and told us what their requirements are, because they see that actually this community and the mechanisms and the solutions and standards program and all the rest of it is able to start now delivering against their requirements. And it's a community that has client organizations in it. It has the whole of the AEC supply chain. It has the software vendors in it. Everybody's here. Everybody that needs to work on something is here. And that's the main message about deployment, because we're now deployment fit. We're ready to start helping people use open BIM processes on their real capital projects and in their operations. And the awards we saw last night, they're the real life examples of this in action. And, being able to show the world what, the real life projects are and how they've been successful is even more powerful at bringing yet more people into this organization. We've still got a lot of work to do actually to convince client organizations that there is benefits. This is the only slide I'm going to show you about the BSI process this time. And the BSI process is off to the right. And on the left-hand side, we have this incubation phase, which allows for strategic thinking. It allows for people to put together a white paper of explaining what an aspiration might be to meet their corporate objectives. And we've published a few. They're on the website. They're pretty good. And we've got a few more in the pipeline. These strategic white papers will have actions coming out of them, or they'll have recommendations coming out of them. And these recommendations then might turn into proposals, and those proposals will then go into the BSI process and go through the endorsement. They'll go through the project process, which is also the endorsement process, to give it that international credibility, but also to make sure it's got good quality. So we have a couple of announcements to make. We've got a couple of incubation groups just starting up. BIM and GIS convergence is a topic that's obviously been prevalent for a long, long time. And we had a previous group, which we called the IDBE, and they produced a report, and there's a copy of the report there. This new coordination group, or this new coordination committee, is going to be looking at the outputs of that report and forming another community between OGC and BSI, And they're going to be producing a roadmap. And that roadmap will be available in due course. And we're also have identified some initial use cases, some granular stuff to really get, prime the pump and, demonstrate that, this convergence between BIM and GIS can work in some form or other, which we don't know what it is yet. And the other thing that we'll be starting up is to do with low carbon strategy. The European Commission has a regulation, which is stipulation, with some targets 2030 about carbon reduction, and they're really quite sporty. And what it is the means to assess the achievement of the DigiGrow, not DigiGrow, it's the European Commission, can't remember forgive me, I can't remember the correct term for the group, but to achieve their aims. And one of the quotes is, digitalization is a means and enabler to achieve a better built environment for the planet and people. Well, that fits right in with our agenda, and providing a common language for assessing and reporting on the sustainability performance of buildings. Ditto. Okay, so we're going to be getting that going as well. You'll hear more about that next time. That slide says community governance and international consensus at the top. And briefly talk to you about the governance. Before I do that though, you'll hear me refer quite often to the phrases program and project. And they do mean two very distinct things. I'm very deliberate when I say it, and it's something that we use within the community a lot. So a project is a unique transient endeavor, and projects are what are delivered within the rooms. A program is a group of related projects, which have a common purpose, a common benefit. So a room, a domain, could be argued as a program, and the projects within it are the transient endeavors. The IFC 4.3 program, the work that was done to deliver the extension to IFC, was a collection of many projects in 2 rooms, and that's why it was a program. So won't go on about that. But here's the overview of our governance. At the top level, that's the senior governance bit, and that's the standards committee. And they're the people that vote on whether a project has followed the BSI process. And the people that are in the standards committee are all of you. Anybody that's a member has a representative on the standards committee, and that's really important. On the left-hand side are the rooms, the steering committees, and those the images of that Ian showed earlier of our 9 rooms and the people in the leadership committee and on the executive committee. And they're the people that are the ones that understand their part of the industry. They set the roadmap for the next 4 years about what the industry wants. They gather in the requirements and they oversee the projects that are being delivered, amongst a few other things. And then in the grey box in the middle is just a representation of the projects being delivered. So that's the 3 core areas of governance. And here are the standards committee. These are all these names here are representatives of all our members, and these are the people that vote on what happens. And the standards committee has been busy. This is what it's been doing in 2021. And each of these markers is a vote. And just to give you an example, on the left-hand side where it says creation of a BSI standard JSON, SP means standard proposal. So that's the beginning of a project. That's when it's going into the BSI process. If I pick another one, for example, this one down here, IFC 4.3 extension deployment PS, that was the vote to say it's now a production standard, which means you can use it and be sure that the quality of it is good enough to produce software from. And then in 2022, this is what they've been doing. Not quite as busy and a bit clustered actually, but the clustering is accidental. Each of these projects has their own deliverables, they has their own timelines, and that's just how it happened. And what other progress? Well, hopefully this week you've been into the rooms and seeing what's going on and understanding, what their plans are for the future and so on and so forth. I would make the point that rooms have a porous boundary. So here's an example: airport infrastructure room, rail room. They all have a collective interest in BIM and GIS. So when that BIM and GIS steering coordination group gets going, we'll be making sure that we're involving input from these rooms. fire safety is a particular project that's going on in the building room. But of course, fire safety is very important also to airports and also to the regulatory room. There's a regulatory room, building room session as well. And that's an important project. Well, it's a semi program actually, because it's a couple of projects to do with occupancy movement analysis and the actual fire event itself. And here's another one. So product room has now got input from elevator companies, vertical circulation cores, elevators, stairs, etc. They're of interest to at least 4 domains there: buildings, airport, railway, and product room. There's stuff going on. And the building room produced an IDM, an information delivery manual on building energy model that's been working on for some years. The sustainability energy management room has also now worked with the building room, and that's a project that they're going to take forwards together, or maybe in the room itself. So Ian showed the project list earlier. Here's another view of the project list. These are the ones that need funding. Okay, some of them have got some funding, but if you're interested in something, you know, if you want one of these things to be a standard, then we need some more funding in order to pay the project teams. And this next slide, I think, is quite important as well, because it clears up some of the confusion we've got around. Membership fees, our members pay a fee to be a member, and that membership fee pays for the operating platforms and the operating resource of buildingSMART International. So the core team that stood up earlier, buildingSMART Management Office, they're the operating resource and all the platforms we use and all the rest of it. Membership pays for that. The other thing that is produced is new services, use case management service. So our Swiss chapter are developing the buildingSMART data dictionary and other things as well. That's partially funded by the membership fees. But project delivery is funded exclusively by sponsorship. But what I'm showing on this slide is that without membership, without, you know, that left-hand side, project delivery can't happen. So if somebody wants to just sponsor but not be a member, it doesn't work. And that's the message really, is that membership is really important because it gives you other things as well. The ability to vote, the ability to sit on a room steering committee and set the direction for how this community is going to go. And here's the support staff for the Standards and Solutions Programme. Sheila looks after railway and the regulatory room. Jeffrey looks after the technical room for us. John looks after the infrastructure, the building and the product. Laura looks after airport construction room and sustainability energy management room. And Claire's not with us, but Claire's our finance manager, and she does the company accounts, but she also manages the project accounts as well. So these are the people that, you know, enable the room steering committee leaders to focus on the bits that they want to focus on, which is the clever bits, creating new open digital workflows and not have to worry too much about the administration. So it's quite, you know, we do support people being room leaders. So I'm going to finish with some thank yous. Firstly, Aidan Mercer, our marketing director, who actually is the owner and the driver and the coordinator of these summits. He was the one that put the portfolio of speakers together on the plenary day. Erik Poirier from buildingSMART Canada. Thank you very much, Erik, for, you know, all the work you and Aidan and Dan have done to pull this event together. Bill Moore, chair of buildingSMART Canada, long-term friend, previous director of buildingSMART International, previous treasurer of buildingSMART International, and yeah, obviously worked and supported Erik to make this happen. Martin Lafleur, thank you very much from BIM Quebec. Susan Keenlyside, as always, did a great job last night at the awards programme. Just brings so much energy to the event, and that's the culmination of a programme of works that she's done all year. Maddie Petrie, who's been supporting the international project coordinators and managing the rooms during this week. And actually also working on quite a few of our other activities. The events team that have provided all our audio visual and the rooms and the, you know, everything that we see and drink and eat. But finally, and mostly, to the Field Marshal, the Brigadier, Dan Little. So thank you, everybody, particularly Dan. So that's me. I'm probably handing off now to, let's see, alphabetical order, airports. That would be Arisca, Droog from Schiphol Airport. Airport room. And hopefully this. Here's our room leaders. I was going to hide these slides, which have been left in. So there's Arisca. She's looking up in a minute. So this is the airport room. This is the building room. And who's going to be talking to us from building? David Ivey is going to be talking to us in the building room. Ken, you're going to be talking to us from the construction room. And you can see all the companies, by the way. Jim, you're going to be talking to us from the infrastructure room. Thank you. Who's going to do the, Michel's here. Michel's going to talk to us from the product room. Railway room, Winfried will do the talking. All client organizations there, by the way, in the railway room. Regulatory room, Nick's in the room. Nick's here. So many rooms. Nick's here. Sustainability Energy Management room, Trinidad, I think you're here still. Yay, okay. And finally, technical room. Who's that? Is that going to be you, Greg? Not here yet. That's all right. He'll be here. He's got form. Okay. Thank you very much.
You guys hear me? Yes, perfect. Well, welcome. I cannot believe it's Friday already, and we're all going home today. I feel like this week flew by. I was telling Richard yesterday that the last time we saw each other was in Beijing, live, face to face, and now that we're here again 2-3 years later, it feels like nothing has happened. Like I just saw you guys at the summit this year, which we didn't, except online. To give you guys an update on the airport room, I'm going to talk a little bit about the entities project, what we've been doing, what we're hoping to accomplish this year. And then Christoph will take over and kind of look forward for projects that we hope to start working on this year or next year. So quick update on the airport entities project. So what have we achieved so far? I know Richard showed the slide of the roadmap of the different rooms. It showed that in 2021, we did a lot, and it looked like in 2022, we didn't do a whole lot, but we did. So looking back, going back to 2020 is actually when we redefined the project scope. My colleague, Maya Trifona, who I think is joining online right now, together with the rest of the team, we redefined the project scope, worked on all of the papers, the one-pager, the project proposal, and then we started actually working on all of the technical stuff. So in 2021, we gathered a list of airport entity objects or airport objects and started looking into connecting to the BSDD. That took quite a while, just getting the list of objects and going through all of them, creating a mapping to IFC, to the existing entities, and then connecting it to the BSDD. But if you've joined our previous sessions, we actually were able to make it happen. So that was very exciting. And then this year, we're actually focusing primarily on the surveys. So it's just 5 of us working on it, but we really want to get input from object matter experts, BIM experts, anyone that's an expert on this topic. So the surveys that we have, we created a survey for the airport-specific security systems and passenger control, navigate and meteorological equipment, civil and airfields, and the terminal. We finished the baggage handling system, very exciting. We actually were able to translate the survey into those different languages, and we got a total of 58 responses from all over the world. So that was very, very exciting. We still have to go through all of them because we just closed the survey, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. But we're very happy with the results. So yeah, moving forward from there. We'll be translating the other surveys as well to the different languages to get more input, and then send them out to the airport domain worldwide, BIM experts. And the biggest one now, what we really gathered from this summit is also to you guys. There's a lot of overlap with the different rooms, and we're really looking forward to collaborating with you guys and getting your input on some of the objects that have overlap with the other rooms. So what is next? Like I said, collaboration. I think that's the biggest one. Collaborate with the other BSI rooms, the railway room, the infra room, building room, regulatory room, really any room that has overlap with the airport room. We want to verify the proposed mapping of airport-specific objects to IFC entities, like I said, not just within the airport domain, but also with all of you guys. And then we want to add the final list of airport entities to the airport domain of the BSDD so that it's accessible for anyone that wants to start working with it. Last, or almost last, deliver resources for primary business cases, meaning that we want to look forward. How can we use this project as a base to start the next project? And definitely last but not least, explain the relevance of IFC to the aviation industry. We want more airports to get involved, more people working for or with airports to get involved to really get that collaboration going. So one of the outcomes of Montreal, of this summit, very exciting, is the joint sessions that we've had on Tuesday. And that's really the part on the collaboration. We had a joint session with a regulatory room, product room, railway room, sustainability, and of course then the airport room. And I think it was a great discussion. And I really think my takeaway of this summit is to collaborate more with each other. The rooms are doing really, really good work, but we need to get together and start looking at where we can help each other. And one of the things that we have accomplished with the railway room, very exciting, is that we came to the conclusion that we can help each other. So we already made some next steps. So we'll meet in 2 weeks and then share our proposed list, go through it, and then plan monthly meetings so we can prepare for the summit in Rome to give you guys an update on how the collaboration is going and hopefully some future projects.
Thank you. So, as already mentioned, actually our problem is we need to address more airports international-wise. And airports usually think very, very strong in business because they have to make business all the time. That's how it works. For that reason, we developed some kind of master plan, how we can address them. And they need to understand more the benefits of our project. And the first step, or the first business case we developed is connect the existing aviation industry with our development. And as already mentioned, we have worked a lot of hours already to create the airport domain. And this whole domain is based on BSDD, and BSDD is actually perfect at first to evaluate for us the informations we already created. So this is the survey strategy we're already running, but it's also really, really interesting to connect classifications from the industry. When we arrived here, we realized, okay, there is one of these industries 500 meters far away from us, but they don't let us in. No, joke. But we need to start to talk with them to combine these international classification systems directly with our entities in the airport domain, because then they start to combine really their thinking with our technologies. And this is, I think, a completely new age of possibilities we're starting in. I think this is an overall business case which works international-wide because aviation industry is a completely international business. Everyone understands, I think. The second thing is actually, as Richard already mentioned, in Europe, the whole taxonomy thing, the reduce the carbon strategy, is a really, really huge thing. And everyone understands that we need to hand over information for building in a complete different way as we do by now. And hand over buildings in operation is the business core of airports usually. And airports build a lot. Airports are entire cities, very high dense, very integrated. So they have a lot of information they need to hand over. So this is what actually, or how this is actually do is a very, very difficult process, took very long, use a lot of power, and is not that accurate. They want to have it. For that reason, they need a solution to get a really, really clear handover procedure. This is also, well, this has to be also standardized. And we collect here a lot of technologies already, which are more or less finally available. And we need to combine these technologies to create a common integrated IFC handover procedure from the design and operation to, from design construction to operation. So at first we need something which is a standardized web-based handover from the PIM to the AIM. This is already available. It only need to get implemented on a position. Okay. We also need to declare the needs for these handover procedures. We have already the LOIN technology. We can declare very, very good what are the needs for the models, because this is a different story maybe in airports, because they have so much facilities and so much equipment in the buildings that this is a very special topic. But with the LOIN technology, we are very good. This enabled us very good to make a declaration of what we need and what kind of quality. And this is, again, an international-wide topic, because airports work completely the same all around. There is not so much difference. The last thing is we need to enable IFC to hand over all the things in one file for every asset, because this makes it much faster and also much more accurate to hand over the informations. All of these things we need. So model informations, connected drawings inside IFC, product informations inside IFC. This is already possible. It's only a question to organize all the different puzzle stones of possibilities together. And this is what we need to develop, or what we need to address to the airports. But it's a solution, I think, for the whole industry, not only for airports. I think airports are only the best places to develop something like this, because they are these kind of entire cities and they have so much business that they can apply stuff like this very, very fast. And everybody know after COVID, we have 2 or 3 years standby stage in the airports. Now they need to reproduce, they need to redevelop. And this is the perfect situation to keep this really going inside the airports. So this is actually the thing we want to do for the next year. Really a big thank you as well to Richard, because he supported us very, very well in the airport room the last years. It was really, really, but it's a pleasure. Thank you very much. We have one more. Yeah, we have one more, but I think this is what I already explained. But we say many people make always pictures and don't listen. So for that reason, we make also a summary. So now we are finished. Thank you.
Bravo, fantastic. You know, the airport room has just come on so much since it was formed in 2016. And it was Alex Warp, actually, who's in the room. Where are you, Alex? He is in the room. Maybe he's not. I'm sure I saw him. Anyway, it was Alex from the Netherlands that set up the airport room with us back in those days. We're going to play a video of David Ivey. You're not here, are you, David? David's here, but he's got an urgent request coming from his business. This is the point, you know, these people are volunteers. As Ian said, you know, sometimes they're on the boss's time, sometimes they're in their own time. At the moment, David's on the boss's time.
Good morning, everyone. This is David Ivey, co-chair of the Building Room. I wanted to thank everybody who attended the Building Room sessions this week. This is just a recap of what we went over in our sessions, both online and virtual. Online and in person. We started off the week just giving everybody an update to the room activities that are going on with the steering committee in the building room. Myself, Rob Rofe, and Geraldine Rayner, as well as Mirbek Bekboliev, went through all of the current projects that are in process, that are approved, that are there, as well as looking at some of the stuff that is upcoming, that the steering committee will be weighing. We talked quite a bit about how the BSI process works and how ideas come into the room and go through the various committees to get approval. I think we talked a lot, again, as we usually do, and as we will also at the end of this session, talk about the need for funding, sponsorship, project leadership, all of those things that really make a project go. Moving on, we had an excellent presentation from Dr. Lisa Lenz and Thomas Neuhauser, who updated us on open BIM-based factory planning and the particulars of what they've been working on, as-built models of factories, cross-trait collision checking, IFC development for factories, and digital twins of factories, which I think you'll find digital twins to be a fairly common thread through not just the building room, but through all of the sessions in all of the rooms. and their outlook for the continuation of the project and how things are going. In the late morning and afternoon, we had the Asset Operations Handover Workshop, parts 1 and 2, which are BR and IR 3 and 4, led by Jeffrey Ouellette, but we had presentations from Leon von Berlo and Bill East, who went through everything that's happening with the AOH process and moving it forward and kind of combining it with what probably won't be the next version of Kobe, but taking the best things from all the different pieces of FM handover type things and kind of repackage them into AOH and getting rid of, and Bill's I think mentioned that, they're getting rid of about 30% of a lot of the parts of Kobe and other things that don't work. So this is a project that's ongoing. I think one of the really big takeaways I had from here, and Jeffrey mentioned this in a couple of places, but the need for people to start talking to each other and not past each other or at each other. So I think that's really important. We have quite a few. We have many knowledgeable expert people in various fields and disciplines, and to make projects work, especially where we have a lot of participants, whether they be sponsors, vendors, BSI members. It's just really important to keep that, I think, in mind, that we need to be working on this together. And moving on, yesterday we had another joint session on building energy modeling, again with Jeffrey, Mirbek Bakboliev, and Gianluca Genova. I don't believe Bertrand was on the call, but again, another great session, really looking at BSI's effort to establish kind of a baseline of knowledge and a roadmap for the effective exchange of data. And so, buildings all over the world, examples of use cases, formulation and documentation, subject matter experts, delivery teams, and finally ending with the data exchange solutions such as IFC and BCF. BR6, we got two updates. One is FM and OpenBIM project updates, and then a digital twins update from Gianluca. So the FM handover updated by Fred Clote and Miguel Castro, and I think the important kind of takeaway from this one was the idea that for FN OpenBIM, it's not necessarily that they're doing anything new right now. I mean, we are doing things new, but for FN OpenBIM, it's really more about stitching together the various efforts that we have, both in projects ongoing in the building room and other places where they are appropriate, and developing, as Fred mentioned, the golden thread between those processes and knitting it all together. And I think that goes well or hand in hand with Jeffrey in another session talking about talking to each other and not at each other or past each other. So developing that thread is really high on Fred's desk, Fred's list, and they'll continue to update us on that project, I'm sure, in the spring, as well as on calls in the future. And finally, we wrapped up our summit with Assam Siddiqui, Peter Lawrence, and Peter Thompson, and Nick Nisbet talking about the fire safety engineering project update. This was a co-presentation between Nick in the regulatory room and everybody else in the building room for the engineering updates. As always, we are looking for sponsorship. We're also looking for project leadership, help on projects. If you're with companies that can provide funding for any of the projects, or they look interesting, you can reach out to anybody on the steering committee. You can reach out to anybody at BSI. They'll kind of shoot you into the correct direction, get you to talking to the correct people. And if you're a vendor, we'd love to have your input on any of the projects that are in progress. So with that, I want to thank everybody for attending the sessions, again, both online and in person. All of these sessions will be available on Hopin, if not immediately, very soon. And we hope to see you in Rome in the spring for our Standards Summit. Thank you.
Thank you, David. A couple of important ones that David mentioned there that I just want to draw attention to is the asset operations handover one, which I mentioned earlier. They're looking for funding and they would delivering this new framework. But the other one is the FM Open BIM. Fred Clute, are you in the room? Hey, Fred, stand up, please. So FM Open BIM, what they've produced is they've produced 5 industry insight papers, which are like really broad use cases. And Fred's done this because he's got a passion for it and he's pushed it. He's not had a lot of recompense for it, I have to say, but he's coordinated 5 groups of people to make these, and they're published on our website. Go and read them. And if anybody wants to contribute to the next phase of it, talk to Fred, talk to me, because it's really important work. And thank you. Or Alexander Warp, of course, yes, who's we've already established isn't here. Yeah, but well done, Fred. Really well done. We are going in alphabetical order. That's good. So I'm going to invite Ken Endo, everybody's friend. Thank you. Here you are, Ken.
Hi, I'm Ken Endo, the room leader of construction. So, yeah, these 4 presentations we've done in this summit meeting, and CL2 and 3 and some additional 6 by the Bexel, the Verco, Yannick. And then the CR4, it is from a Canadian chapter, Steve Mahoney, from PCL ED joint venture. It is the use case session. And the next CR4 are also from the Bexel, and CR8, sorry, by the Mileta Pejovic is attended by online, and all those our sessions in this summit. So CL3 and 6 very cool. The topic of title of his presentation was benefits of holistic open BIM digital construction management for integrated practice. Very long. But anyhow, yeah, so there's the important key words included in the title: holistic and open BIM, digital and integrated. So the BIM, especially in construction phase, are very complex and are not simple. So that we need another very complex but the simple methodology we needed. So he provide the many information, and then majorly it's the system, the workflow, his products Excel manager has. So to manage very complex workflow, and then the very different situation, every construction project has some specific character. So we need to adapt, rewrite the tool, and then make some good process for each project. That's quite difficult for us to create. But data should be integrated to the cloud system. So what he proposed was the strong workflow, and then how they connect all those data into the cloud, and then create their system, Bexel Manager. So those are some sample, and then he very kindly do the demo with my PC here, and then do some real-time demonstration. It was quite interesting. And next one, in CL2, Steve Mahoney is a project manager, BIM manager of PCL-ED joint venture. I think many of you, the Canadian people, know this project because it's a very big project. And then it's in Ottawa, the very center area. And then quite iconic building. It is, I heard it is the building of Parliament and in the center. And it has many years. So he do the very precise planning using the drone and taking many photos to create point cloud and then compare the reality. And then all those, the old heritage should be replaced, restored. So the many of the materials should be reused to recreate the new rehabilitation of this building. So they need use the RFID, the barcode, and then the serializing all each materials, and then manage all those with the BIM technology. Yes, CR8. It's from Excel, and then Mireta popped in by online. And his topic was the knowledge-driven, automated 3D, 4D, 5D workflows in integrated open BIM cloud-based environment. So his topics also targeted and focused on 4D and 5D. And then he also showed us many slides and then give us how to use and how to manage all the data in very complex and a long-term project. So lastly, but the presentation was the first pitch of the CR, the CR2. But I want to finalize talking with my presentation. And this is the room domain, and then the category. The upper side, the blue one is technical rooms, and there are 4. And then the below, the user-focused rooms, regulatory, airport, construction, railway, sustainability, energy management. So I set this construction a middle. And then why I did was, it's the crossing point of all rooms. And then the very good connection with construction managers and BIM user outside of this BSI society. And then because the people in technical area has very precise and high-tech knowledge, but not only the people, not that people are using BIM. We, construction company person, is not the expert of IFC, just a user. So we are thinking about how to use those technology. So construction room should be translate very difficult technical term to easy words, and then educate those people, provide the good information is our role. So our domain is not that like the railway or airport, the specific domain, but I think we have the operational domain. So it's quite related to all the rooms and then can spreadable to all the construction manager and BIM users. So those are the past topics we've done and summit meeting. And then highlighted was the 4D and 5D. All those topics are very frequently upcoming. Why is? This is the domain and then the border of 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D. We are thinking 3D first. And then next, what do you think about it? How to apply those 3D BIM to the site, construction site. So if you start think about it, time, money comes first. And then it is 4D BIM and 5D BIM. And many people that define 6D and more, but all those are in operation and management area. And the many use cases. So the 3D BIM, it's the planning and then the creating a federated model, the MEP, and then architect. And then so it's in the design area. But to go forward, the construction BIM, we should step into 4D, 5D, 6D, and its operational area. So how to, we need some kind of the methodology to step into 4D or 5D. So what's the method and the tool we can use? So that's the map, technical map of us construction room. And then there's the below, there's a layer of open BIM. We have the standards and the file format and CDE. And now the standardized with to the open CD APIs. So this is the good connection to upper side IT, IoT, AI. It's the applied side, the IT technology used in the construction site. So all those are some kind of the technical map and software ecosystem template. So in reality, this is, software ecosystem. And then it's the, BSI Award 2020. But if you analyze this one, then you can find many systems under below, and then some applied system. So combination and then creating those chart is very creative work. And then to make this kind of map and sharing the information into the project or outside, sharing the post it to the award is very valuable. So another methodology. So now we have some kind of the software ecosystem map. So this is the software ecosystem maps, some concept. Many the vendor BIM, and then the connecting those vendor BIM with the IFC. So it's the it creates the open BIM software ecosystem. And then if you post it and share it in UCM, it will be the very big the asset of us to share. So creating software ecosystem and then sharing in UCM is the main workflow of the construction room. But I know it is quite difficult to share your project data to other person. It's very confidential. So that's my another last proposal to create, established construction room in local chapter. It's hidden by the menu, but so it's my proposal. And then to maintain and continue this kind of the work group is quite difficult, I know, because I found my construction room 6 years ago. So 6 years running a construction room is very sometimes time consuming, and how to run every time I've been thinking. And at the same time, I run CL in local chapter and I had experience 6 years. And then we gradually understand what kind of information is valuable to the people joining from the construction company. So first good text is a monthly newsletter from Aiden. He posted every month, and then those information, 6 pages. It's from the email, but printed, if you print it, the 6-page volume. So studying and sharing internal in your work group or some the activity in your local chapter is very valuable. He sent me, yeah, it's the kind of love letter. But anyhow, they're not routinely, but sometimes it happens. So he sent me the activity proposal. It's by email. But if you click and you can download all those documents, 10 or more than that, 10 pages or more than that. So download, read, and share and study is another good material. And lastly, but of course not least, the award, BSI award, the software ecosystem also is very good information to share. So the newsletter and activity proposal and BSI award, those 3 materials you can routinely and annually have. So if you use these materials, and you can continue running CL in your local chapter. So conclusion. So start from local optimization and start user vendor communication, and you should be the influencer in this area. And then share use case locally and globally, and then create software ecosystem map, and then post it to UCM. And lastly, that establish CL in local chapter. And those are the steering committee member. So if you want to start up your CL in your chapter, please contact them and consult. That's all. Thank you very much.
Ken, you're such a great contributor to the buildingSMART community, and you're so popular. Thank you very, very much. That was lovely. As Ken says, we have got space on the steering committee for the construction room. So, you know, if you're a member of buildingSMART and you've got a particular passion for this area, come and talk to us. If you've got a particular passion for this area and you're not a member of buildingSMART, come and talk to us, because we can give you a membership form. But seriously, it's not so much the membership we want, it's the knowledge and the experience that we need in the rooms. Right, we're going to do one more before a break. Infrastructure room, Jim Plume.
Well, thank you. I'm standing in for Tina. She's probably online, so I'm really nervous, because she'll be very critical of what I say. No, that's not true. I'm just going to report on what we've done over the last 2 days, and It's under 6 headings. These are the headlines. So we've done a fair bit of work on the roadmap. We did have a panel session with owners on their commitment to IFC 4.3. We had a joint workshop in the building room. We had some virtual presentations from the online presentations from the German chapter. We had a joint session with the railway room, and we had a report on the tunnel project. So I'm going to work through each of those. And I have to say, I was guilty. I'd forgotten that Tino had asked me to do this. So this was all done last night. So the roadmap update, we had 2 sessions. We began at our first session, we reported on where we're up to with the roadmap. And then we had an interactive session in the final session yesterday. It all began with a couple of, with a series of workshops. So we've been encouraging chapters to hold their own workshops to come up with ideas and proposals, suggestions for the roadmap. And what we've done over the last few months is collate all of that information. And that's resulted in this diagram, which you probably can't read, but it's an attempt to graphically represent the idea that what we do is in streams, and there are no stream names on that diagram, which is rather silly. What we did was put all of the ideas that came out of those workshops onto that map. That's kind of a useless exercise because before we do that, we need to collate them all. I should have said that some of the workshops have been virtual and some have been face-to-face, and there's been 5 so far. We then collected all the input from those workshops, we collated them into areas under our streams, and then yesterday afternoon, as a community, we got onto the Miro board and we started to get people to prioritize those ideas and to add any other comments to it. So what you're seeing in the background here, which you can't read, of course, is the Miro board, and we haven't read it yet. I'm hoping it's all very polite, but basically all of these are votes and their information for us. So we've had a very productive time in pushing our roadmap planning one step further through that exercise. We then had a really excellent panel session, and I've got to say, Marek's not here, so I can be really nice about it. He did a marvelous job in facilitating this panel session with 4 leaders in the infrastructure space, whom you all recognise because they've been speaking at in various rooms and in the plenary sessions. And they had a really interesting discussion on talking about how their organisations separately are looking at the implementation of IFC 4.3 in particular, and talking about the challenges, talking about how they're approaching it, and discussing them on themselves. So it was a very valuable session, and I'm very grateful to Marek for the way he ran that. We then had our joint 2 workshops facilitated by our friend. Sorry, my brain's gone dead. Thank you. Sorry. Yes, thank you. Yes. I mean, I'm getting too old. My brain dies. But Jeffrey did an excellent job in collating that. It's a massive site, I know, but I've just tried to collect highlights from it. So we had Bill East talk to us about, he's been doing a lot of work over the last couple of years on the early work on asset operations handover, and it's led to the development of an activity proposal, which is on the table at the moment. And there's a challenge for us in the infra room to try and catch up with the building room, as well as the railway room, to also catch up, to start to contribute to this work. And so we had presentations from Bill. I provided some brief response to the activity proposal, and then we had a roundtable discussion again on Miro board. So it was, I think it was a very fruitful exercise to move us forward. And the challenge for us in the infra room, and I've also whispered in Winfried's ear that it's a challenge for the railway room, we need to now catch up with that work and get involved in it and contribute our bit. So the building room has done a massive amount of background work, and it's now up to us to join that and to take advantage of that work. So that was, from my perspective, a very valuable session or two sessions. The next was this was yesterday morning. We had two online presentations from Ahet and Florian, and on these topics, really just reporting on some of the work that they've been doing within the German chapter over the last year. And that was very informative for us all. And so we heard about their work on object catalog, and also the master planning for buildings, the FBA, I think it was, and the work they're doing. So they're really progressing well in those areas. We then also had a joint session with the railway room, and we had presentations from Vandro there, and also some online presentation from Chi, and talking about several projects that have been going on in the railway room in particular, around their next steps, if you like, toward developing, deploying the IFC standards. Vandro was giving us a briefing on some of the work that he's doing around driving the compliance process. I forgot to include on this slide, and I have to apologize to my colleague Christoph. He also gave presentations in this session on some of the work that he's been doing, and on also reporting on the ISO process that we're going through for IFC 4.3. So again, that was a good session. It helped us to touch base again with the railway room, and it's really great to meet these guys face to face again, I have to say. We then, and this is the end, so I'm going to be very rude. I haven't taken 10 minutes. I'm sorry. I'm a failure. The IFC Tunnel Project did their report. That project is progressing really well. This is their list of activities, phase 1 and phase 2, and they're down here. So they're getting down to the end now. They've basically developed their express schema and the HTML documentation for the proposed extensions, which I think will become IFC 4.4 in due course, is the plan. And this is the same sort of information on the timeline, so they're up to here. And they're progressing really strongly. These are some of the use cases they're dealing with. You can't really see it there, but they're dealing with most of the primary types of tunnels that are required. They've done some excellent work on developing the geotechnic models, and there's still challenges there, I think, talking to them around some of the work that has to be done. But an excellent piece of work, and is going to, I think, round out the IFC 4.3 extensions for infrastructure as we move into IFC 4.4. So it was really exciting to see that work. I think that's where I need to stop. So thanks to a fantastic infra community, we get a lot of support, and we really appreciate that involvement. I haven't put it on here, but I want to also mention John Proctor. He's been a tower of strength, particularly during the last 2 days, but just continually supporting us as an infra room, and I really appreciate that. All roads now lead to Rome, of course. Au revoir until then. Thank you.
Brilliant, Jim. Considering you did that after the gala dinner, actually even considering if you'd done it before the gala dinner, that was really good. Thank you very much. How long, when do you want us back in from break, Dan? Okay, so let's say back in here at 11:15, please. Yeah, thank you. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, everybody. Right, before we go to our final session, actually, I feel a bit bad. I've been reminded that there's so many people to thank in this organisation. You know, there's so many people doing great work, but there is one person that's been a constant actually throughout the life of buildingSMART International, not buildingSMART, but buildingSMART International, and it's somebody who jointly formed the airport room with Alex Warp. And you're here now, Alex, you are. And it's Rob Roof. Would you both of you stand up? Because we've mentioned Alex twice earlier, and then Rob. And I particularly want to mention that, you know, Rob was the airport room, and they ran many, many sessions in the early days of the airport room. Now he's building room. But he's also brought at least 3 members to buildingSMART as well. Whenever he moves a company, he makes them join buildingSMART International. And that's a fair achievement, actually, to go into a new company and say, you need to join buildingSMART International, and they do. So well done, Rob. Thank you very much. Right, now we're going to talk about the product room, and Michel Bohren is going to take the stage.
So, hi everybody. It's great to have you after the break. So you are fresh again. You have power, you have energy. It will be probably quite a short session. We started repositioning and realignment of the product room end of 2019. It was also when I took over the chair in this time. Then we had the first workshop on site personally, beginning of 2020 in Switzerland for this repositioning and realignment, and then we had COVID. And it's difficult to do a repositioning and realignment of something like a product room with video conferences and phone calls and so on and so forth. So that slowed the process, unfortunately, down then during 2020. 21 and now 22. Then we had a first on-site workshop again this year, September, so preparing then also Montreal. There we had really kind of a breakthrough and had the good preparation from Montreal, where we had the plan to get a mandate from the community in our repositioning realignment. And that was quite successful. So that's a little bit about me. So you'll find me on different portals, websites, whatever. So I'm the CEO of the Swiss Standardization and Specification Authority. So the Swiss Research Center of Rationalization and Building and Civil Engineering, very long name, CRB is the term we use. So what we were asking already in Brussels, but also here in Montreal, is for an industry input. So what do manufacturers think about a product room and what they expect out of a product room? We've chosen 3 representatives, very special ones, and that was not by accident. So we had Lorenzo, so that's an industrial manufacturer in the wood area that has specific requirements. Then we talked to Schindler. Schindler is building plants in a building. So that's what their product is as complex as the building itself. So that was the reason that we invited them. And then we invited SiteLock. That's a logistics company. They're organizing off and on-site logistics for construction site to get their requirements. That was very interesting. So it is a very, very short summary. So some of the very important points they raised, what they would expect from product room or topics that we should cover. So one part is where OpenBIM is nothing else than open API at the end of the day. And what's interesting there is from all the 3 of them, it's about real-time and bidirectional data provisioning. It's not export and import. Very important, huge difference. Our software systems are not ready for this usually. So there is probably really a timeline to achieve it, but interesting to get these kind of requirements. Then what we heard also from all the three, it's a system approach. So it's not about products and material, it's about systems. You can call them also appliances, composites, whatever. But it's not products and materials, it's more. So Schindler, it's overall plant you're working with. Well, of course, in the plant, at the end of the day, you have then again products. But it's also the same with Lorenzo. But even logistics talk about systems, because they say, well, we do not have, or very seldom, with Lorenzo eventually, but usually we do not have walls in the logistic. We have bricks and plasterboards. So, and they have to manage both because they get the requirements and also the timeline, the quantities and so on from the walls. But at the end of the day, on the construction side, you have bricks and plasterboards. Then what was also interesting, also from all of the three, data is also a source for calculation. It's not only about data, so they do something with data and then you get a result and then somebody else will probably be interested in the result. Then they also talk, all of them, about third-party data sources. So it's not only about what we specify, it's not only about what we have in BIM systems or in BIM models, it's much more. They want to access and they want to bring together with data out of a BIM model, for example. And then last but not least, access to data from build assets. And here again, it's about data provisioning. It's not file exchange. So that's a little bit really rough in a nutshell what we got from these industry inputs. And I'm sure we will go on and talk to representatives from the industry to go further on. What we did then also now here in Montreal is really workshops. And you see on the right side, it was not very digital. It was analog workshops with flip charts and pens that worked quite well. We did decide explicitly not to work with Miro or something like this because we had enough technical issues in the session itself. That was one part. The other part was also that everybody would have a laptop on his knees in the workshop. That's also quite complicated. So we got then out of the community in the workshops some major activity clusters for the product room. So one was something about definitions, explanations. So especially, what is a product? Not that easy. So that could be work for years in a product room. Especially only discussion, is a material a product? Most probably not. Perhaps yes, sometimes yes, and sometimes not. But they could help a lot because if people talk about products, everybody understands something different if he talks about it. So that could be an important clarification. There are sources from ISO, from the construction product regulation, from ICAS, an organization that I represent also. So not to reinvent something, but perhaps to bring it together and bring it in a form that we can work, we can rely on. Then question about referencing data, product data, concept of data storage, of data management. Also question a little bit there, is it about export import? Is it more about API? Is it linked data? Is it reference data? Whatever. We don't know. It's open, but it is a topic that we get a mandate, well, start to care about it. It's important. And all the cluster is all about governance. That the role of the product room and the positioning. So if you're talking, for example, about BSDD, how should we influence it? How could product room help to build a governance around the data dictionary so that large manufacturers, but even public organizations start to rely on it and say, well, okay, yeah, we understand that's the right tool, that's the right technology to work with it. So it's not that we want to be responsible for BSDD, but perhaps it's something kind of functional requirements from the product room to a BSDD. But then also governance in a sense of cross-vertical room coordination or other aspects. Then, of course, this open API topic, data exchange, is it IDS? Is it something else? Here again, the coordination with other rooms. And then last but not least, a process map. that we really mention all the stakeholders. We go for use cases and map a little bit. So what is it all about if you talk about products and especially product information? So it's information lifecycle management that you should care about. Then we went further on, said, well, how could this look like in a timeline? Where should we start? What is something that builds on the other part? That's the first draft that goes in the direction of a roadmap. And there you see more or less the clusters again. So if we have on the top left, definition of a product, what is it? Volume 1, a kind of a report model that could be deliverable. Then we have a definition of a product, volume 2, also report model, to evolve it, to develop it. Then the governance part. So the first part is probably a kind of discovery, provide inputs to buildingSMART International. Then the second steps, then perhaps really also go for a clarification, for a decision from buildingSMART International Management. Then the process map, the information lifecycle management that we start is a documentation. Then, of course, out of this, then go into use cases, have a short list, then go into cross-vertical room collaboration alignment, and then have documented use cases in the UCM. Sorry to the airport room, because they made this first step this year in Montreal for a joint room session. We were not ready. And it doesn't help to go and engage if you don't have a clue what you want to talk about. Now we have a better understanding. Yes, go for it. So that's great. Then the open API topic also there. Is it a report? Is it a concept? It's about reference data, link data, MED, IDS, whatever. And there we see also an involvement in the first report concept, and hopefully a proof of concept in this area. And then also a communication concept around product data. So how should then also all the stakeholders work with it and go on with it. Also here you see it was quite analog. Radboud and myself that run the workshop are still old gray guys, so it's not too bad to work from time to time with paper and pens. Yes, that's all about the work we did this year. I'm very happy that we are a big step forward, and we really can say it is already draft roadmap. We will work on this until Rome. I'm sure that we will have more content in Rome, and then we are probably also ready really to go in this cooperation and work together with other rooms. That is then also a little bit the understanding and that we developed, so that product room, but perhaps also technical room, regulatory room, are kind of cross-vertical rooms that have a lot of stakeholders and also hopefully a lot of influence and support in the more domain rooms. So that's a little bit the view we have, and that's the way we'd like to set us up and go forward and work together with other rooms as an important part. That is change also in our thinking, in our mentality. And another part is, of course, this. So if you look at the overall process, design, build, run, very rough, that we say, we have the impression, well, usually, so buildingSMART is a lot about the area of specification, design, perhaps construction, but it's less than if you talk about products, about an evaluation, procurement, off-site logistics, on-site logistics, asset management, operation management, reuse, recycle, and so on. So it's also new that we say, well, it could be that we say, well, we take the ownership of this process. So really information lifecycle management, especially in the area of products, materials, components, whatever it is at the end of the day. So a little bit a broader view than we had in the past. So that's what we prepared in September. That's what we ran during this week. For me, it was a great success. It was a big step forward. And I think we are now in the position to go deeper and more detailed and really provide content and value to buildingSMART and buildingSMART community. Thank you very much.
Well done, Michel. Yeah, big step forward. I'd agree with that. And, you know, being able to get together at that workshop that we had in Brussels and actually have the manufacturers, the product manufacturers in the room has really unlocked the potential of this room. And if there are any other product manufacturers who've got requirements, you know, come and talk to us. And I'm aware I'm talking to this magic eye as well over here. I'm talking online to anybody that's watching, you know, in the rest of the world. Okay, I guess it's railway room next. Yes, I've got my alphabetical order right in my head. So it's Winfried.
Thank you, Richard. First of all, I was so glad to be in touch with all of you in person since 3 years. I'm not that happy that I got in touch with the rhinovirus. So my voice is a little bit deep today. I thought about going to a sound studio to record this famous love song for railways. You know that? Love me tender, love me too. So okay, sorry about that. Well, normally this could be the first and the last slide because that's what we are doing in the railway room this 5 days. Maybe some of you are happy now, but it's only the first slide. It's the main message. IFC for the 3 needs implementation. That's what we are going for during this this summit in the railway room. And yeah, but to make it clear, we start around to analyze, to go through the project phases we have done the last 5 years. So we have 3 phases like that. And the first phase was the requirements phase. So we got a lot of stakeholders there. We got a lot of infrastructure managers, rail industry partners to write down their requirements. And this is the most difficult thing, to ask somebody, what do you need for your work? This is terrible difficult to get a real good answer. Not influenced by tool sets, by don't know what, yeah. So it was really difficult, but we succeed so far. We get tons of requirements, documents, and very structured description of rail objects and their attributes and properties. So this was the first 2 years of our work. The goal was to support the infrastructure managers throughout the whole life cycle of their assets. That's the point. And thank you, Michel, for the slides before. Exactly, that's it. That is what we need. It's not only design, it's design, build, operate. And at rail operation, it's the longer period. Planning is also long sometimes in the rail operations, in the rail industry. So yeah, that's the goal. The second phase was to transferring now these requirements to the standard. That's why we are here. We want to standardize those information requirements, and we choose IFC for that. And that's why we are here, and that's what we are doing here. So phase 2 was building the standard, and that's where we are. So we have delivered our description to ISO, and now the ISO process is running, and hopefully mid next year we have a new release of the ISO. So that's why we're here. That's what we're doing. But then we sit down and say it couldn't be all. We have to do more, and that's why we designed the third phase, applying the standard in software. And as you see, it's very tricky. Can you imagine what happened when the one bowl starts falling on the others? I hope they are very sustainable, and it will be fine for us, because that's what we need. We want to apply standard in software. That's why we invite software vendors. We want to support them during their implementation phase. And why are we doing that? It's because we want to support the end users. So that's why we have to, let's say so, we have to stop talking about models and structures and whatever. What we need is a functional software which supports the end users in the field, in the offices, wherever they are working, and try to exchange information during their working process and the life cycle of the whole asset. Yeah, so far to the project, but the other way is the structure of the railway room. So we've got new furniture for the railway room. It's not that planned and so on, and so we try to put more inside. As you may know, we have had a little bit different organization than the other rooms. We have had only a project steering committee because we have only one project, and so let's go through that without that many overhead. But now we have established a room steering committee in addition to the project steering committee. And we have had at this summit 2 very cool workshops where we try to bring some new stakeholders aboard. I want to mention Deutsche Bahn is on board now in the room steering committee, and we go further through the planning of roadmap. And yeah, the first 2 sessions I think were very successful, and we have an agreement for going on in that way. Yeah. Oh, the last slide, I think. I'm so sad. As a room with the R in the beginning of the name, I only can agree to that what the others say. Airport was the first one, and at least in the last one, collaboration. I think maybe this was the first summit after 3 years, and the first summit where the point collaboration cross-room is point which comes out of every room. So I think, and I suggest that we should not reorganize, but should give them a room in the next summit, so that we have, don't know, half of the room time is room work and half of the room time is cross-room discussions, cross-room presentations, and so on. Airport room and railway room, we have decided to think about it, and maybe we send it out to you, and maybe you can support that idea. Well, yes, as it is the last picture, I only want to refer to, is Leon in the room? Leon, hey. I want to refer to the story you mentioned in your keynotes, because I was in the same phase sometimes, and I decided to wear only black socks. Yeah, it's really I do that, but as black socks also develop different during their lifetime, so it's also not the solution. And from my point of view, it is much more colorful if you do the world more colorful. It's better to have more colors in the world. It's not black and white. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Winfried, Barry White, Stix. Song and comedy. I think at the next summit in Rome, you and Rasso should form a band. Next up is the regulatory room. Mr. Nick Nisbet.
Good morning, everyone. Second to last. But I'd like to claim that the regulatory room is now on the leading edge of building smart development. Something very exciting happened yesterday, somewhere between the award ceremony, when 2 of our most fervent supporters won a technical award, and the time we got to the pub, we were renamed. We are no longer the regulatory room. We are now the super fast building approval room, plus. Next one. Okay. Now a bit of detail. Yeah, our name, I'm afraid, is probably going to have to stay as regulatory room. We do want to talk about requirements, client requirements as well. In the building sector, we have external regulation. In the railway sector, we have external regulation. In the road sector, somehow they manage to regulate themselves, and they get called requirements. And in due course, we're going to have to think about how we handle recommendations. But what the room is really about is getting the balance back into building smart. We all spend a lot of time thinking about building solutions, built solutions, facility solutions, and so on. And the regulatory room's job is to be the voice of the customer, the voice of society, where the demand comes from. I think the work we've done, oh, could I have a couple of clicks, please? Always falls into, that's there we go. We try and think about our work in three categories: the strategic work we have to do, the commercial work we do, and the technology. And in the past, on the strategic side of things, we've had a roadmap for 5 years now. We've looked at the value network, because what we're dealing with is not a single customer or a single organization. We're looking at a value network, a business case that spreads widely across our sector and the people who want our products and so on. In the sort of commercial layer, we've been looked at electronic checking. We've done surveys in the past, investigations, the way applications work, application forms and so on. And in the technology side of things, we've looked at interoperability, not just for building solutions or built solutions, but also for rules. How are we going to actually make sure that we can share rules independent of the applications that use them? So for this session, we continue to develop those things. First of all, at the strategic level, we've been engaging. I hope we've been engaging and occasionally charming. We've been doing surveys, we've been reaching out, we've been doing open houses to find the community that's interested out there. That's been increasingly successful. We did a survey, we had hundreds of application responses and so on. So we've been refining our messaging and how we're working. The other thing that we've had to do is it was time to revise our roadmap. And the really exciting thing is that unlike the old roadmap, the new roadmap has got dates on it. So we're starting to commit that we're going to try and achieve things to a certain timetable. Yeah, we may fail, we may succeed, we may get there quicker, we may get guilty of speeding on our roadmap, but we're going to try our best. The other thing about the roadmap is that we're starting to take on board things like the carbon regulations, and we want to work with the white paper activities to be part of that. As far as the commercial layer, we've committed to a project to produce guidance for regulators about open BIM, because there's a whole community out there, like Casey said in the opening sessions, there's a whole community that doesn't know about us. All they know is the price tag of expensive software. And we got to get out there and say, open BIM opens the opportunities. So repeatedly, I've said that you don't get regulators to come to building smart sessions. You don't get regulators to come to meetings. And this year, our room was full of regulators. But anyway, we're going to press ahead with developing guidance to make the case, both stepwise in what needs to be done, what they need to understand, but also case studies. Because the other thing that's really important is that it's happening now, not only in Estonia, but in the rest of the world. And so we need to get the message out, to get the confidence that this is possible, it's doable, and it's valuable. As part of that, we'll be following up with the Canadian initiatives we heard about. We're really keen to re-engage with the Norwegian initiatives and make sure that we know what's going on and what the best examples are, what the not so best examples are, and can make that message out for the public. In the technical layer, we've got an information requirements project to make a market for automatic regulation, which is in our charter as our ultimate aim. We have to have more standardization of the information that's used. We know that every country has different regulations, different legislation, different history as to how they got to where their regulations are now. But fundamentally, what we regulate is the same. It's life safety. It's environment and waste. It's fairness and accessibility. And there are a few others, but those are the main ones. And so we're trying to bring together from our community the information requirements that are going to make automated compliance checking and assisted compliance checking and review processes much more likely to be done and so on. So we've got that underway. We're engaging with the Estonians, them again. We're engaging with the Finnish initiatives. We've got Scotland on board. We've nearly got England on board. And we're having really good conversations, both with agencies, but also researchers in Germany, Czech Republic. And yeah, we want more people on board with that project because the history of IFC had one of its big boosts when the Singapore system was created. Suddenly, people could see that it was possible to do something significant. That's 20 years ago now. So we've got to give another push. And part of that engagement is very pleased to work and talk with the fire safety engineering to talk about simulation of the performance of buildings and the regulation of the performance of buildings and how they can work together. So those are our activities last couple of days. Very grateful for people who are supporting us. Very grateful to the steering committee. Very grateful to Sheila for supporting us in our work. So we don't make mistakes because we get told off if we do. A few other points that I'd like to make is the news is coming through. Buildings are being approved against IFC models. And that's a really important message. It means that you can have quality models that are good enough for regulators to work with. It doesn't have to be easy. It doesn't have to be automatic. It requires effort on both sides. But increasingly we're seeing from, or hearing from Norway, we're hearing from Finland, that this is starting to happen. And I think that's really exciting because it means that for the first time, we are being judged by the wider community, the regulators, the society in which we work. And they're saying, yes, IFC is important to us. And my last point, and I think you should go home and tell your aunts and uncles not to go to Finland because IFC is mandatory in Finland. And maybe they wouldn't want to speak IFC. Finnish is difficult, but IFC in the next couple of weeks is going to become mandatory in Finland. I suspect there may be some qualifications to that statement, and we'll find out what they are in due course. But it's happening because people are recognizing the value of IFC, and the regulatory room is a forum that is really helping get that message out. So those are the points. Again, thank you to everyone who supports us, and we will have even more news by the time we get to Rome. Thank you.
The super fast building approval room. The acronym is not anything rude, is it? Yeah, some lovely quotes in there, Nick, actually. I particularly liked the one that there's client organizations out there that don't know about this open BIM community. They just know the price of expensive software. So I'm going to be using that, attributed, of course. Trinidad, we're going to talk to us about our newest room, our youngest room, the Sustainability Energy Management.
Thank you. So as said, we are a very, very young room. So for us, this event was super important to connect, explain, share, and really start to build the connections, the conversations, the alignment with different rooms. So I will thank all of you because I've got a lot of very, very good discussion with all of you, very warm and very open mindset to work together. No worries, I've just one slide, so it is easy. So for us, as we said, we have joint sessions. So with railway, airport, sustainability and energy management room, with building rooms and BEM room, really to explain, share, and give the vision of what we want to build. So a lot of good feedbacks on the challenge to build this data model to exchange information around the electrical model and the energy electrical model. What is not appearing here is the aside conversation I've got with other rooms such as the BSDD, such as product room, and probably I forgot some of them, and I apologize in advance. What is important for the room, it's first is to finish the activator proposal. Hopefully, I hope we will present it to you, all of you, in Roma. Then it's a super good news that we are fully aligned with BEM room and fully complementary. So we want really to pursue the conversation and to see how to better collaborate and really have a joint effort and an efficient joint effort. And then we know we have other conversation to pursue, but I will say it will be probably in the second step, as for us it's really important to start with the core. And last, I want to ask you, for all the ones who wants to help us to join the room, feel free to connect. We have a lot of job to do for technologists, experts, whatever you are, your position, the sustainability journey on the data modelization and all those kinds of things. I think we have some space and room to do with you and to get your help and effort with us. So thank you all. It was a super event for the Sustainability and Energy Management Room.
Thank you, Trinidad. I mean, I'm really enjoying working with the new room, and I'm really excited about where it's going to go and how we're going to develop it. And as you say, there's room for more people who are working in this domain to come along and join the steering committee. Next is from the technical room. Did we say it's going to be a video? Okay. Yeah. Play VT.
Sorry I couldn't join you in the room. I had to depart a little early. I'm just going to give you a quick summary of what happened in the technical room this week. So in sessions TR1 and TR2, we did two things. The slides are a little low on detail, but on the IFC today, we walked through this sort of historical evolution of what the technical parts of IFC look like today. So Express, STEP, where those pieces came from, what the process was in the past. And then as we're looking ahead to IFC 5 in session 2, what we did is explored what's called an entity component system model for the next version of IFC, looking at different options and potential variations and how it could be used to solve some of the problems and challenges we're seeing with IFC in its current representation, which is a STEP file, STEP physical file, or is the equivalent. So in TR3 and 4, what we actually were able to do is have some invited guests from Autodesk, Trimble, and Bentley actually talk about how they're starting to implement this ECS pattern in their own tools. So Autodesk Forge, or talking about, or Autodesk talking about their data exchanges, Trimble talking about the property service, Bentley talking about an iModel that's not specifically using this ECS model, but is actually doing some very similar things. And then in the last part of TR4, what we really pointed to is what the effort we need to do to actually start to formalize the work of IFC 5. So not the decisions, but what are the things we need to do to move this forward? And I'll talk about those in the last section. So on day 2, TR5, we walk through the validation service. And this was a demo and bring your own laptop session where people were able to test the validation service. The main goal of the validation service is to be an arbitrator, a sort of third-party opinion provided by buildingSMART between interpretations of the standard. So two softwares not quite aligning on what the right interpretation is for how to represent data properly. This is meant to sort of help be the third party in that. I think it's important to mention that this is actually an open source tool, so while it's not trying to be a project requirements tool, it certainly could be used by end users to validate their IFC files. It's actually an open source thing, so if people want to extend it and add things outside the scope of what buildingSMART's doing with it is absolutely possible. In TR6, we did a BSD user workshop where people entered and navigated around BSDD using several services, but it was definitely a hands-on, and the anecdote from the session is the team managed to push the ACA service pretty hard in doing this, but it was all part of a great group of people coming together to test out BSDD in practice. And then finally in TR7, the focus was on the library maintenance side of BSDD. So if TR6 was about using it, TR7 was around different tools to help make it easy to actually update and manage content on BSDD, one by the French chapter, one by ACA, and one by CoBuilder. But again, the point here is sort of on the administrative side, so it's easy to have good data to consume. So on the next step side of things, we, on the IFC 5 discussion, there's a sort of, one of the first parts of the effort is to really document what we think IFC is trying to solve for the other rooms. And I have by Rome there, but that's not an agreed date, but that's a good target for us to have a draft of something like that to put in front of the other rooms to help them understand if what we're actually trying to solve for, like enabling digital twins in a certain way, or certain kinds of design transfer, these sort of things we think we need to formalize before we sort of move forward with any changes to IFC. We think this is an important step. Then we also need to sort of document just what are all the decisions to be made as we even consider modernizing IFC, whatever IFC 5 becomes. And then finally, we go back to the work we did in sessions 1, 2, and well, actually sessions on the first day, which is looking at this ECS concept and trying to determine if it's a good candidate for us moving forward, which is to do prototyping work. It was a wonderful discussion. We, as a group, all pointed out it was, these technical things can be difficult, and the feedback from everybody was that we sort of did a very good job as a group of trying to work through and come up with next steps as part of the sort of as a group instead of doing this individually. It was a very good conference for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg Schleusner. So that is a report finished from all of our rooms. Thank you very much to everybody in the Solutions and Standards program, not just what you've done during this summit, but for what they do all year round. It's a massive commitment. As you can see, there's a massive amount of work that's being produced, and new and innovative methods are coming along all the time. And the IFC5 that Greg just mentioned to us is a very exciting new development. So I'm signing off now. I'm going to hand over to Erik in a minute. I'm going to spend this afternoon, because somebody told me there's a beautiful city of Montreal out there. I've not seen it yet, so I'm going to spend the afternoon walking around that and enjoying it. So reiterate my thanks to the Building Smart Canada chapter for how well they've looked after the Building Smart international community this week. We've been really well supported. We've been really well housed. We've been fed. We've been, we've had lovely evenings and the opportunity for great socialization. So Erik, thank you very much to the chapter. And farewell.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the opportunity to speak and address the delegates. I guess I'm going to start with the formalities by thanking and actually naming the partners. The amount of support that we get from the partners was tremendous. So Autodesk and Dassault, who are platinum sponsors, Bexcel and Greytech, who are gold, Aka Software, Revisto, Pomerleau, NBS, SolidCAD, Esri, Dalux, Graphisoft, who are silver, and then the bronze, McGill, ABCP, Blackwater Technologies, GLT, Canam, Ellis Don, HDR, Sistra, D-Rofus, Provencherois, and Simbim, who were all event sponsors. So I really appreciate their support. I'd like to give them a hand. I'll then thank our event planning organization. They were the ones that actually did everything, put the chairs and set the agenda and everything. So OPC, so Martin Drolet, Jamie Lee, and Marie-Hélène, thank you, and the rest of the team, thank you very much. Very much appreciate your support. We also had volunteers, so the people with the blue shirts that were in each room and helping. They're the students from our research group. I'm a professor at École de Technologie Supérieure, so they were instrumental and they were very appreciative of the conversations they had with each and every one of you. So thank you for sharing with them, and I thank them for their time. I'd like to thank Groupe. I'd like to thank, of course, le Groupe BIM du Québec, qui était un peu l'hôte ici dans la province. So Martin Lafleur and Pauline Mal, who were the people that were involved from the Groupe BIM du Québec. So we're a local regional group, so the grassroots organization. I think you have everybody has those in their countries, and they're very, very important to this cause and part of the solution and getting the word out there. Building Smart Canada, the XCOM, so Bill Moore, Claudia Codistorto, Gord McElravy, and John Hale. Thank you for your time and your support throughout this process. I'll thank the Forum francophone. Merci à la délégation française, suisse et du Benelux. So we had the Francophone Forum is an organization that was developed in 2019 to sort of, if you look at BSI as a three-dimensional matrix, so you have the different groups, you have the countries, but you also have language. And so the Francophone Forum was to share resources in a common language. So the Forum francophone, there was a strong presence here. So really much appreciate that and hope to be able to continue to collaborate. So merci, Frank. And thank you to Gersound, who's hope online, but for their organization. I have to, of course, thank all the speakers and the participants. That's they put on the show and they make the quality, set the bar for the quality of these events. So every speakers, we had over 60 speakers just in the plenary session. I think we had over 60 technical sessions. So I think when you looked on Hopin, the list of speakers was, you had to scroll for a long time. So the speakers are the core of this. So thank you to the participants and the speakers. I have to thank the US chapter also, and that's one thing that when we went into this, we wanted to, and Richard showed the map, and we're sort of a bit isolated. We have our two little maps, the Canadian and the US map, and hope to see a little bit more maps in the South America and Latin America. But to really try to get some North American recognition, brand recognition, there's some long-standing support, of course, in the US, and Canada has been a chapter for the last decade plus, but we do have an issue with recognition of buildingSMART as a brand and buildingSMART as a concept in OpenBIM. So that was the main driver behind trying to host the summit in Montreal, is to get the conversation, get the groundswell going, and sort of have the delegates sort of bleed your enthusiasm towards a North American audience. And so the US chapter with Ian Howell and Will Sharp, who really he got in touch with all the US DOTs and brought them over. So a very big thank you to them, and hope to continue the collaboration with the US chapter very closely. I'm going to say a couple of words around sort of I hinted at the intent, so as to get that conversation going around and showing that OpenBIM is not just something that's of technical in nature, and a lot of the Canadian delegates and a lot of the participants came up to me and said, oh, this is what buildingSMART is, this is what it means to be part of this community. And I have to thank the people in the rooms and the committees that were very generous in bringing in. I've been with buildingSMART for a better part of the last decade. My first summit was in Paris in 2018. And when you get into a room, you feel like you're walking into a conversation that's been going on for 25, 30 years. But what I found very interesting, and I've always appreciated, is that the people in the rooms will actually stop their conversation and bring you in. And then you'll be part of that, and you become part of the International Friendship Club, as Patrick says. So I think that's a very strength of this group, and I wanted to have that community feel. And we, as a chapter in buildingSMART Canada, we have to build on that and capitalize on that momentum, moving things forward. And so we have a tough task of carrying that through, and then continuing and getting more Canadian delegates into the international rooms and so forth. And so I'll finish by saying, of course, thank you to BSI for your support and for your confidence in us to actually host this. When we started planning, I made this joke in the national the plenary. My youngest was watching Paw Patrol, and now he's watching Power Rangers. So that sort of shows you the evolution. And so Aiden has been I've been dealing with Aiden over the past 4 years, and we've had tough conversations like, are we going to put this on the first cancellation? Are we going to put it on? Are we going to push it back? And there's been constant and consistent support. And of course, last but not least, with Dan, the quiet presence and the quiet force. And I think you wanted to say a couple of words, Dan, and push it off to Rome in this spring. So Dan, thank you so much for your support and all the hard work you did.
I don't know that want to say a few words is the right phrase, but I've been encouraged to. I wasn't going to until about 10 minutes ago when I changed my mind, so I've made a few quick notes. This summit was the first summit that buildingSMART International has done that is hybrid to the extent it was. And I guess many of you, but maybe not all of you in the room, will know it's also the first summit that I've put on, excluding the online ones we've done over the last 2 years. So thank you for your patience, reiterating what Richard said. I know everything didn't go 100% smoothly, but we worked through it, and just wanted to say thank you for your patience. Also, thank you for your support, everyone in the room. I do work with an amazing team at buildingSMART. and couldn't have done it without all of their contributions. We've also had support on the ground from 2 companies, OPC and Encore, doing the AV and event support. Couldn't have done it without them. In all of the rooms, we've had John, Jeff, Sheila, Laura, Maddie, and Evandro moderating the rooms and helping get it, everything that you saw this week to where it is. So thanks to them. And thank you to Aidan, who's not with us, as we all know. He's the person that I work closest with at buildingSMART, and he's also a great friend. And I'll be forever grateful for the opportunity that he gave to me. It's him that brought me into buildingSMART and introduced me to the community. So very grateful for that. I find myself in quite a unique position in that I've talked to so many of you over the last 2 years and not met any of you. It's been a real pleasure meeting all of you. Having said that, I am aware I haven't met every single person in the room. So those I haven't met, apologies, it will happen. And sorry that I couldn't spend more time with each of you, but I'm sure you'll understand and forgive me for that. And that is it. I would like to say I look forward to seeing all of you in Rome, where we will be hosted by Anna and Lorenzo, and I'd like to invite them to join me and perhaps say a few words to encourage you all to make the trip there.
I will start with the recommendation. The meeting will be here and not here. The reason is because we don't know about the weather, and that's full of holes. So, okay, no, really, I feel really proud, I have to say, of our chapter, because we started not so many years ago. And so we are really looking forward to meet you in Rome. It will be the first time that buildingSMART will meet in Rome. And I noticed that 4 out of 21 finalists were Italian projects. So I think that we will provide good contacts in Italy with our members that we are increasing. We are now more than about 200 members. If you have any requests, of course, buildingSMART will be the group of persons that you would speak with them. But if there is any other particular request, we will be more than happy to solve. So I already know somebody want to have extra days for the meetings. Others would like to have a bigger room to meet together. So we will try to organize with, especially with Dan, all these things. I also would like to take the opportunity to say that as we are a democratic organization, I finished my second 4 years mandate as president. So in March, I will be not the president, but of course I will be working with you. I will stay with you. Okay, I look forward. I just leave the word to Lorenzo, who is the real.
Thank you. I don't have much to add. I just want to say thank you very much for this amazing summit. And I know in Rome we will have a lot to do, and all this technical problem and challenge has to be managed. And but we of course will focus on important things. So there will be very tasty food on the summit, and so I think we can achieve good result there. Nothing. We want to work together on the summit. So any ideas will be welcome to discuss, and I think collaboration is the main focus in the summit. So whatever you think could improve this collaboration, we could try something new in Rome. We like to do something innovative. So we're looking forward to meet you in Rome. It will be spring, very nice. So invite friends and family and see you there. Thank you.